Hello, and welcome back to the All Out Soccer podcast. Myself, Jeremy Goldstein, my co host, Joseph McBride, we're two football fans talking about soccer. We focus on a fusion of the MLS, the U.S. men's and women's soccer teams, and the build up to the 2026 World Cup. Joe, a lot of action over the weekend. How you feeling?
Well, my Liverpool sadness was overcome with some great MLS stuff. So really, really good after all of that. But the international break's over. We're back into the thick of it. And yeah, it's now full steam ahead after the break until the MLS Cup Final. I'm buzzing.
And as we've said, it's a little bizarre. The international break is right smack in the middle of the playoffs to kind of stunt momentum. But I think some of the games this week really helped recapture the momentum that might have been lost.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I mean, unexpected results. I think, two of them, especially in the East, didn't go the way I was expecting. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, carnage and just exactly what we needed to, like you said, pick up the fandom again and get right back invested after quite an interesting international break.
Yeah, we're going to go through each game individually. That leaves us with a semifinals to be of Miami hosting NYCFC and San Diego FC hosting the Vancouver Whitecaps. After we get through a recap of each of the four conference semifinal games, we're going to look at do a little prediction for the conference finals for each conference before getting into some World Cup bits and bobs related to Ronaldo's suspension being, let's just say, spread out. Let's just say, and a look at the pots for the upcoming World Cup draw and just how that tournament will be seeded. I think me and Joe do not see eye to eye on some of the tweaks made to the tournament, but alas, we will get to that in a little bit. Joe, we're going to start in Cincinnati, where the story was not about Cincinnati. The story was about the country of Argentina, who made light work of a Cincinnati team that we said may have been a little fool's goldy all season, and now it looks like the chickens came home to roost in a big way.
Yeah, well, I made two bad predictions last week. The first being that Cincinnati would be tough to break down. I expected a decent end-to-end close game. It wasn't. It was a pretty embarrassing performance from Cincinnati. Inter Miami won 4-0, which is just a pretty damning scoreline based on how well Cincinnati has defended this season. But it all started off, of course, with Lionel Messi. Opened the scoring with a lovely header. Headed down into the ground, into the top of the goal. 20 minutes in, this was the first of 3 goals, which was really badly defended by Cincinnati. So for as good as Miami have been going forward and as great as they are to watch, and I actually feel like they've really clicked in the last few weeks without Luis Suarez, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Messi was being double teamed. They weren't leaving him alone. They actually made a good start to the game, Cincinnati. Kevin Denke had a really, really good chance. Even Brenner had a header that was caught by the goalie, but it was kind of looping in and you didn't know which way it was going to go. But then, the double team of Messi as he was running into the box, the ball came in, they stopped looking at him. They watched the ball. Messi then, of course, with the man of his experience and talent, just, walks back a little bit, finds the space, and he's unmarked. It's unforgivable in the playoffs, but they still had a chance to come back into it, and Cincinnati did hold their own in the first half. Only 1-0 at the break. You thought maybe there's something they can do here, but again, Lionel Messi acted, playing a lovely ball after halftime, 57 minutes, to Matteo Silvetti, who I think looks absolutely amazing for Miami. And they may have saved themselves some serious money in that DP market looking for a striker because he looks great. I know he's only on loan, but if they can secure him, he looks great. He's already scored when he had to step up for Suarez, and he curled one beautifully into the bottom right corner to make it 2. And then 2 basically carbon copy goals from Tadeo Allende to make it 4-0, both towards the end of the second half. And it was unforgivable again. I mean, Cincinnati were pushing for a goal. They were doing their best to try and get back into it. But there was still about half an hour left at this point. And you can't just play a high line with a player like Messi, a player like Busquets, and all of this talent that they have, and just expect it not to collapse. And that's exactly what it did. Both times, Messi played through Allende from his own half, 1 pass, and he was through on goal and finished both of them. 1 in each corner. Really, really easy stuff. And it was a bitter pill to swallow for Cincinnati after a good year. It was just a really bad way to go out. I don't think anyone would have expected them, maybe not to beat them, but if you lose, you can look at it and try and draw some positives from it. But it was just a really sloppy effort. And Miami are finding their groove right now. And I do believe that Miami is better when Silvetti is up top instead of Suarez at the moment. They just look way more fluid. He's got speed. He just, it's not Suarez has been sluggish, and I do feel like he holds them up at times. And I feel like for the remainder of the playoffs, obviously Suarez will feature at times, but I don't think he should start.
I agree. I mean, Silvetti seems like a special player. There's a recent video the MLS put out, an interview of him, and he said he anything Messi says, he listens to everything and internalizes everything. And they just seem completely on the same wavelength, especially in transition. Miami didn't seem like they would be this ultimate transition side, and now they've leaned all the way into it, and they look unstoppable. Again, this does leave them vulnerable at the back, and against NYCFC next week, that could be an issue. But if they only have like a few of these chances, they're going to win every single game they play. And with someone like Lionel Messi responsible for pulling the strings, I thought Miami would win comfortably, not this comfortably. I mean, they could have scored even two or three more goals. This is the best team in the league right now, full stop. And it's really, really exciting. And I can't wait. I hope Miami makes the finals just so we can see them play one of these Western Conference juggernauts.
I think they will.
Yeah, but they're at home. But you know what? Stranger things have happened in these MLS playoffs. So that game was a bit of a blowout. The game I'm going to talk about next was anything but a blowout. I mean, this was, I think, one of the greatest games, greatest MLS games I can remember. Vancouver vanquished their playoff demons, and they get a big win against LAFC at home, a game that looked like they were just surefire to win at halftime, surefire to lose at points in extra time, and then miraculously walked away with their heads up after penalty shootouts. What the hell happened in this game? I'm going to give it to you as concisely as possible. An amazing goal by Emmanuel Sabi in the 38th minute off of a long ball from the goalkeeper, followed by an even more amazing backflip in celebration. Laborda scored before halftime off of a set piece. He got the second ball off a corner to put Vancouver up 2-0 before the break. They were dominating possession. They were dominating shots. They were dominating territory. This game didn't look close. And then in the second half, it was a completely different story where the LAFC had every single chance. Dennis Bouanga looked dangerous. Heung Min-Son was dangerous. His goal in the 60th minute came off a beautiful flicked-on header by Marky Delgado. A little chaos in the box. Son scored. Tristan Blackman saw the second yellow in the 93rd minute after Dennis Bouanga like very, very aptly held him off. He knew the contact was coming. Won the free kick, and then Heung Min-Son, what can you say? That free kick in the 95th minute. We've talked in the past about him not being on free kick duty for Tottenham in years past, but he absolutely stepped up to the plate. Went through in the top left corner, 2-2, went mad, absolute scenes. And that was just regular time. I don't know how else to describe this. LAFC hit the post 3 times in one possession at one point in the 22nd minute. And then they had another chance after that. They absolutely dominated this game. I mean, they were up a man. It's a shame they didn't score. Son then misses the first penalty in a weirdly wacky penalty shootout, and Vancouver win. Was it fair? Probably not. I mean, this is why you can make the case best of 3, best of 1. If this was a best of 3, I mean, obviously, I think LAFC win one of the games. This is the burden of penalty shootouts. This game should have been decided on the pitch. This is how the sport works. I always say, MLS, please go back to your old penalty shootout format that gives at least room for skill to matter a little more. But both of these teams are deserved winners. These are, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 best teams in the MLS. It's a shame that one of them had to go out. That's what LAFC get for a little bit of a sluggish start to the season before, obviously, Son came in. But they win 1 or 2 more games early on, and they're the 1 seed, and they're playing Minnesota in the second round instead of traveling to Vancouver. And that's just why the regular season matters, so you avoid these matchups.
Yeah, it was a tough loss. But, I mean, this is the time to start making acquisitions, start looking at who you're going to get and build for next year, because how they played, they just looked great towards the end. And if they can build on that and start the season strongly, it could be another glorious year, kind of like it was with Carlos Vela back in the day.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. It's just like, I've just felt so bad watching them lose, watching the penalty shoot. I was like, I can't believe one of these teams has to get eliminated. It just doesn't feel fair. But that's what happens. That's what the single game elimination does. And you can't have the best of 3 forever. Maybe there's a change where you make the single elimination in the first round, best of 3 as you get later. Every system is somehow going to be wrong, but here we are. There was an upset, though, in the Eastern Conference. you could say is an upset. I thought Philly outplayed NYCFC, but NYCFC, they're into the they're into the Eastern Conference Finals, Joe.
Yeah, it was upset of the playoffs so far, and it just goes to show, they never know when they're beaten. They just seem to always find a way. And I was saying before, I wrote them off completely because they had now Alfonso Martinez, who usually is the guy that will grab them that one goal and they'll hold on to a 1-0 win and be impressive. But this time it was the veteran. It was Maxi Morales, aging like a fine wine, scored a beautiful goal actually in the 27th minute. And that was the difference. It finished 1-0. It was just a lovely move. It was Augustino Jada down the right who cut inside to Nicolas Fernandez. And what I liked at this moment, he was in the edge of the box. He had a passing lane to the right. He had someone to the left. He saw Morales starting to make his run. He just waited. He just stood and he played the right ball. Completely dumbfounded the Philadelphia defense. And Morales, an experienced man as himself, is not going to miss from that close range. And that's how the game ended. But it wasn't the full story. Philly did dominate. And one player I want to highlight, as much as it was a nice goal and it was a good performance by New York City, Matt Freese really stepped up in this game. And you can tell that US men's national team confidence is, really through him at the moment. He made 4 really, really good saves, one from 4 yards out, point blank. No one picked him up at the back post. And it was an unbelievable save. Also, New York City almost scored from their own half on a breakaway when Andre Blake got out of his goal. He rushed back, made a phenomenal save, got injured in the process and had to come off, actually. So I don't think he would have been playing if they went through anyway. But a really solid performance from New York City. It depends if they can hold up against still one of the best players in the world, perhaps still the greatest player in the world at times in Messi. Unlikely, but we'll see. But it was a really good performance. And I think, especially just kind of looking at it from a US perspective as well, if the US is successful in the World Cup and they're obviously going to progress and meet one of these really elite nations at one point and probably be on the back foot at times without being disrespectful. Freese has shown that he can stay alert for 90 minutes of a knockout game when he's not always called upon but make big saves. And that's exactly what Pochettino is looking for and exactly what he lost faith in Matt Turner for.
The irony of Freese serving as Blake's understudy for a number of years without getting really a full chance to break through, only to then end Philadelphia's season in a game where Blake himself got hurt. In one of the craziest plays I've ever seen a goalkeeper make. Absolutely heroic by Andre Blake. One of the greatest, you could say, maybe a case for the greatest MLS goalkeeper of all time. And the succession plan could have been there for Freese, but he's really taken in stride in New York City. And this is in my opinion, a slightly above average MLS team. And he's really the main reason why they've made it this far. All right, our last game. Drew the least fanfare, though the MLS attracted some pretty big names to show up in attendance before the game started. It was San Diego FC versus Minnesota United. 1-0 winners were San Diego. Irving Lozano still on the bench. Corey Baird starting up front through the middle. Robin Lode for Minnesota really should have scored in the 47th minute. An amazing save by Ian Pilcher, a defender, off the line. Minnesota had a few chances all night. They couldn't really take them. Kelvin Yeboah, player we've talked about, Minnesota's a little lacking for attacking options after selling Tani Olosane to Villarreal. Pereira's been a good shout. Longwane's been a good player, but they really don't have that attacking punch. And Yeboah had a bad touch in the 64th minute on a 1v1 with the goalkeeper that he should have done better. The San Diego goal, Corey Baird, we've given him a lot of grief. We just don't think he's very good. An amazing heel flick for an Andres Dreyer hammer, called Thor's hammers on the broadcast as a tip to his Danish heritage. And that was all that San Diego needed. They didn't even create 1 XG of chances against a Minnesota team that's really, really not exceptional. They're only here because of absolute, they just survived by the skin of their teeth against Seattle last round. And they were really, really close to making the conference finals. San Diego, this is why you win your conference. This is why seeding matters for these matchups. And San Diego FC, they took their chances. Again, this is not an elite team. You look at their front line; it's very patchwork. Amal Pellegrino, great player, but he wasn't on the team until a few months ago. Corey Baird, MLS journeyman, we know his story, and then Anders Dreyer. They imported one of the best transfers in MLS history, and that's why they're here. But to me, this is really the story of this is why you work so hard during the regular season to put yourself in position. And now they're going to host Vancouver for a shot and an MLS Finals berth in their first ever season. They're not going to be favored, even though they're at home. I mean, this Vancouver team looks very, very strong, and they're off an emotional victory. But San Diego have a great chance. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Not only to finish the conference first, which is, impressive enough as it is, but to make it all the way to the finals of that conference. And if they go one more and they're, playing potentially in Miami for the MLS Cup, and could, either they're going to be part of history anyway. I mean, they already are, but part of a big moment, or they're going to be the biggest villains and cause the biggest upset in their first ever season as well. So they're doing amazingly. And Dreyer is, one of the best. It sounds extreme, but he is one of the best in history just for impact in terms of transfers, for sure.
Yeah, stunning player. He's going to get the headlines. Again, he doesn't have the international pedigree DP slot of like an aged World Cup veteran who then comes to the MLS. He's a player squarely in his prime that fans talk about, we want to see elite players in their prime. Here's an elite player in their prime. He's one of the best players in Belgium a few years ago, and now here he is in the MLS performing even better. What do you want to see? It's a question of what fans want to see. I think San Diego are kind of the team of now. Vancouver have that mix of uber young talent, and obviously then Thomas Muller. Let's just get into the predictions now, Joe. Let's start out west, just because we're on this topic. I mean, Vancouver, incredibly impressive in that first half. Seemed very, very nervous in the second half. Potentially those playoff demons. Now they're underdogs at home against LAFC. Now they go into a road matchup as favorites. Very weird psychological position to be in, with the pressures on them. This is the best chance they're going to get to an MLS Finals in a long time. They're playing an expansion team in the conference finals, and they're the favorites. I'd be surprised if Vancouver didn't win, but because of that psychological element, and I mean, San Diego are a very resilient team who don't really concede much, which I think is very, very important, despite Paddy McNair kind of being phased out of the side. I think it's going to be a low-scoring one. I think Vancouver win 1-0.
I think it will be something obviously the game they just played, it could be anything. But yeah, San Diego is solid. They're going to have, it'll be the 12th man in the stands. It's going to be insanely hostile, I think, for Vancouver. They know how to put on a show, those fans, even in their first season. But it's silly to pin it on one person, but I just think with how many times Thomas Muller has been in like a semi-final element of a competition, I feel like he'll be able to kind of get everyone's head straight in the Vancouver dressing room before. I think they'll also, I'll go with like a 2-1. I don't see San Diego not scoring at home, but yeah, I can't wait to watch this one. And should we go over into the East?
Yeah, we should. I just want to say, I don't think San Diego have offered too much through the playoffs. I think they've really just played two mediocre sides so far, and I think it's going to be a totally different shout against Vancouver, who will have ample time to rest and whatnot. Let's go over to the East. Miami will be at home against NYCFC. This was not maybe the conference finals that we drew up on paper before it started. All signs are pointing towards a Messi versus Muller final, which would be really, really exciting. I think we're probably going to pick the same team here, but I want to hear your rationale and how much you think Miami will win by.
New York City has surprised me at times this season. I've written them off so many times and they've come back and just completely shocked me. I'm going to stick with the NYC kind of hate, even though I've got nothing against them at all. I do think they'll be completely caught out here. Alfonso Martinez is obviously a big miss. They did fine without him against Philadelphia, which I thought was kind of poetic because obviously it was against NYFC that Philly clinched the Supporters' Shield right at the end of the season. And then, a few weeks later, they've come back into their backyard and ended their dreams of winning the MLS Cup. But I think I could see it being 2 or 3-0. I just think Miami has just got too much quality going forward, but I really do think that they will have more of a chance if they start Silvetti. Suarez came on at the weekend and he looked okay. He didn't really do much, but I'm not sure he'll do the same. But I do feel like they'll lose something if they start Suarez, and at that point, maybe New York City can. All they need is a goal and then just try and camp out. But I just don't think you can deny Messi for 90 minutes plus.
Yeah, it's one game. Which is an advantage, which means anything can happen. Helps kind of neutralize any advantage that the better team would have. If Silvetti plays, it's just like, I just don't think this NYCFC defense has been middling all season. And Martinez is a bit of a chaos agent up front. Good or bad, he often misses chances that he, should have scored. But without him, they're just don't create the same quality of chances. Obviously, Fernandez has really come into his own recently, the big money transfer from last offseason. But without Martinez, I just don't think the side has enough going forward. I'll say 3-1 to Miami.
3-1 vote. Yeah. I'll go 3-0. I'm going to say they're not going to score.
Yeah, it's probably right, especially if Miami get a goal early and then NYCFC have to kind of come out of their shell, just asking for trouble. Okay, that's our MLS wrap-up. One of our last MLS wrap-ups of the season. Obviously, we'll get into the conference final stuff next week, but it's been fun, Joe. I've enjoyed it.
It's been a really good season, I think. There's been so many storylines, so many kind of peaks and troughs of teams doing well and then struggling. And I just feel like the momentum's building. There's a lot of change in MLS and a lot of things coming up, and I just feel like it's improving. So this playoffs has been really good as well. I'm really good for the league.
Hey, if you want to get involved in the conversation, shoot us an email at jeremy.goldstein@reachplc.com. Please engage by subscribing to the show wherever you get podcasts and leave us a like while you're at it. That's the end of part 1 of this week's All Out Soccer, but stick around for part 2 just after this break. All right, we're back talking some World Cup stuff. Obviously, we could get into a litany of U.S. men's national team news. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on with a lot of players over recent weeks. Weston McKennie scored for Juventus last week, yesterday in the Champions League. A lot of stuff going on, but we're just going to stick with some World Cup stuff this week before we return to talking about the U.S. men's national team. We're going to start with a story about Cristiano Ronaldo. Joe, what's going on?
Well, there's been a lot going on with Ronaldo in the international break. Let's just say that. I mean, towards the end of it, he's meeting with Trump at the White House. He's enjoying a nice dinner with people like Elon Musk and all of that around him. But towards the start of the international break, it wasn't the nicest for him. He was absolutely heckled and belittled by an Irish crowd who were really up for it, trying to save their World Cup dreams. They obviously did so. They beat Portugal 2-0, and in that game, Ronaldo got a straight red card for elbowing Dara O'Shea. It was a sight to behold. It was a one-match ban because that's what it is. But because of the violent conduct, Ronaldo was then, a 3-game suspension, which would have meant he missed the opening 2 games of the World Cup in 2026, which would have been diabolical for him, for Portugal, for the fans that wanted to come and see him, whether they're neutrals or not. Now, this has caused quite a lot of controversy online because he's had that sentence suspended. He served the first game of a 3-game in Portugal's final qualifier. They'd already qualified, didn't really matter. But he's not going to miss those first 2 games. It can be suspended for a year, so he can serve those at a later date, even though he might retire after the World Cup anyway. But this has caused a stir because everyone is blaming him, blaming FIFA, blaming Trump because of all the timings of everything for him getting special treatment. Now, I've looked into the laws. I've gone lawyer mode on this one. And FIFA does have the right to suspend the suspension. They do it with a lot of players. Article 27 of their disciplinary act actually says that they can fully or partially suspend and have a probationary period of 1 to 4 years. Now, they've told Ronaldo if he does anything like it again or kind of breaks his probational period, then his suspension will be upheld. But seeing as it's his first red card in like 200 internationals for Portugal, they've took that into consideration. But everyone's saying that he got special treatment. I have looked into it a little bit more, and this isn't the first time this has happened. And with all due respect for a player that is a lot less high profile than Cristiano Ronaldo. So in 2014, French defender Laurent Koscielny of Arsenal, he was sent off in the first leg of a World Cup playoff against Ukraine for slapping Alexander Kusha. And he was obviously automatically banned for the second leg, and it should have been the first 2 games of the World Cup. However, FIFA chose not to extend it and allow him to start at the World Cup. There are 2 instances just this year where players will miss the opening game, and that is Ecuador's Moises Caicedo and Argentina's Nicolas Otamendi, to which fans again were kicking off at. But they both got second bookable offences, red cards, in the final game of qualifying, meaning they have to serve the 1-game ban, and there is nothing FIFA can do about it. It's a bit kind of an awkward situation. Should he just serve what he should do for doing a violent act on the field? Potentially. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm not in the camp as everyone else saying that it's a joke and he needs to be banned and they've got to set a precedent. I mean, with everything else they're doing in terms of, ticket prices and games, they're never going to ban him. But I actually think if you look at the fundamentals, it's not that big of a deal.
No, I agree with you. I don't like any sort of bending of the knee for Ronaldo or anyone of that ilk. I also don't think bans like this should impact international tournaments. I just don't think that's fair unless it is like you are serving a lengthy suspension for a crime, drugs, whatever. But I don't think an on-field incident, barring something, again, that is worthy of a lengthy suspension, should ever impact an international tournament to begin with. I'm generally anti-bans. I mean, you can see UEFA has greatly softened their rules around bans in the Champions League, where it used to be, yellow accumulation. You could miss a final. In the Champions League and in European tournaments was similar. And now they kind of softened on that, just being like, it's ridiculous that if you get 2 yellows in a tournament, you have to miss a final over the course of 6 or 7 games. I just think that's overly punitive. Again, anything to cave to Ronaldo is stupid, and it always is. But this one, I think I'm in your camp, and I appreciate you lawyering up for this.
I wasn't expecting us to agree on that, I can't lie, but I have a feeling that we're going to clash on the next talking point we've got. So this should be interesting.
Yeah. This is a modernization that I think is useful. So the pots are finalized for the World Cup. Obviously, we still have some interconfederation and UEFA playoffs to finalize the fourth pot, Group D, for qualification for the World Cup. But pot 1 has been sorted. It will be the 3 hosts, so the US, Canada, Mexico, plus Spain, Argentina, France, England, Brazil, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. Those last 2 teams are very, very lucky to sneak into pot 1 because it makes a whole lot of a difference when it comes to who's being seeded where. The big news is the 4 highest ranked teams, Spain, Argentina, France, and England, in that order, will be placed in separate sections of a new seeded tournament, kind of akin to a tennis style, where the top 4 seeds in any Grand Slam can't face each other until the semifinals. So under this provision, Argentina with Lionel Messi, Spain with Lamine Yamal, would not be able to face off until the finals. We're going to get into some stuff about Team USA in a second, but just this provision, you hate it. I know you hate it.
I absolutely hate it. And don't get me wrong, like, it's change, and sometimes we struggle to adapt to change. There's already been a big change in the way that more nations are coming to the World Cup this time. So for them to add this as well, look, it comes down to, I think, again, from like a business perspective, the fact that you can guarantee these sides won't face if they make it until later, great. Also, it means potentially you're stockpiling, blockbuster clashes right at the end, which is great for entertainment. But it's the first time this has obviously ever happened. The first World Cup was back in 1930. It's an English game. We're getting all hyped up here, but I like how whoever qualifies, once you're there, you're just off the leash. And look, don't get me wrong, England can't, if they make it, they probably won't, can't face France until the final. When you look like black and white looking at it, that's great. We're not going to face France. They knocked us out in the semi-finals before. But I just don't like the changes. I just think it should be left alone. And a strange part of knockout, especially international tournaments, is as soon as the draw's out, and then as soon as you see how everyone else is doing, you start mapping out the route, what the potential route to the final is. Who might you face? Oh, if we finish in this position, we'll face that team. England's got, again, some lucky draws in the past, but I just like it being left off the leash and left to its own devices, and letting just the football do the talking, and not kind of micromanaging where teams are going to be placed and where they're going to do it. And also, it impacts the draw. The draw can be so random. Teams can be anywhere. And now, before the draws even happen, we've lost a little bit of that suspense, because we know that these, 4 teams, 2 in each side, are going to be split up. So some of the draws already kind of been done in that regard.
Okay, here's my response. It's not that much drama removed from the draw. It's just like they're on different sides. It's not who's facing who early. It's not that. And with this being a bigger tournament, there is just more room for chaos. And more room for chaos means more chance at completely unheralded matchups late in the tournament. This structure ensures some smidge of stability without completely lopsiding the table. And look, you could say lopsiding is just part of the sport. Groups of death are very, very common in the World Cup. There's always a group of death no matter what. I think we want to be a little careful, just from a spectacle point of view, of ensuring. I love an upset. I love an underdog run. I really do. But you can't have too many of them in the same strain of the bracket, or you're really creating a diminished spectacle. Because when you and that is the spectacle has more room to be diminished because of for more teams in it. And look, everyone should have an equal chance. I hear you. It's just like everyone loves an underdog until it's two random underdogs in the semifinal, and we're like, what's going on here? What is going? Like, this is not the World Cup.
But this is where we disagree. Like, football and a lot of sports, it's passion, it's tribal, it's sport. It's not entertainment. It's not, there's going to like, once you get to the World Cup and arrive, you're left to your own devices. You're on your own. And you're saying about stability, like, at what point does it become scripted then? We don't need stability. The whole point is the football does the talking. You play who's put in front of you. And if you win, you progress. And if you don't, that's your problem. I don't like the idea of structuring it so we kind of have like a bit of a safety net and, it's going to be a good World Cup, don't worry. Like, US is hosting the tournament and they can put on the best infrastructure and the best spectacle they can. But they need to not meddle. And I guess this is going to be FIFA the way it's going forward now, but not meddle with the football part of it. You don't need to touch it. That's going to be absolutely fine. I promise you.
Yeah, look, I think I do hear you. I don't mind. Again, and this is just 4 teams. It's just 4 teams. It's
only if they win their group as well. By the way, if they don't win the group, it's irrelevant.
One team finishes second in their group, which will happen, and everything's out of whack. It just creates the loosest of a blueprints that exist in other sports. Last tournament, Croatia beat Brazil in the quarterfinals. That would have robbed us of an Argentina-Brazil semifinal. And again, your argument, and I hear you, is leave the football to the football.
That's Brazil's fault.
Whoever wins, wins, and blah, blah, blah. I am a spectacle person. I like the spectacle of something. Brazil versus Argentina in a World Cup semifinal would have objectively been better for the sport and better for the world had it had happened. Obviously, it didn't because Brazil only scored once and then conceded late and then lost in penalties because Marquinhos sucks. But in my opinion, I prefer the spectacle. And again, you don't need to game script it in advance, the spectacle, but then that demurs the spectacle. The idea of an Argentina-Brazil semifinal is so special because you can't force it. It just happens. And then when it happens, it's a big freaking deal. I think this is just minor game engineering just to ensure the shot of a spectacle that's so minute. The odds of this actually happening are so minute, and they don't actually really create any like advantages, are fine if it gives us the spectacle that I want in the end.
I think I'm just a traditionalist. This is the last thing I'll say on this, just even on your, example there. Yes, as a neutral, we will want to see Argentina, Brazil. But if you're in Argentina and you see that Brazil get knocked out against Croatia, I don't think they're complaining at all. And that's no disrespect to Croatia. I mean, they were a World Cup finalist in 2018, a lot more recently than Brazil, by the way. So I don't want to, do them any discredit. But I'm from an England fan, we've got lucky in draws. This is European, but Denmark in the semi-final. Again, no disrespect, but that was great. And, on the route to, I think it was... 2018, Croatia in the semi-final should have beaten them. Just funny enough, Croatia again. It's just the excitement as a nation. We watch it as a neutral once our nation is out or didn't make it. Cool, but it's exciting. It depends which camp you're looking at it from. I think I'm just a man of tradition, a man of principle. I don't want to see the game meddled with anymore. I've already had to deal with sideline interviews in the Premier League, which feels wrong. But anyway, I'm just angry man shouts at cloud over here, I guess. I just don't want it to be messed with too much. Like, just leave it pure.
I don't think we're ever going to see eye to eye on this, but hopefully the draw gives us some juice in some capacity. In whatever way that juice manifests, just gives us some juice. That just about wraps it up for this week's All Out Soccer. He's been Joe McBride. I've been Jeremy Goldstein. And we hope you can join us again on the next episode. Or, as Thomas Muller would say, auf Wiedersehen. See you.